Claire never wanted to attend the wedding, but pride pushed her through the door. She walked into the decorated hall, her dress chosen carefully to show she was strong, unbothered, even though inside she felt like a ghost. The laughter of others filled the air glasses clinking. Heels clicking, love songs playing through. Expensive speakers, but to her it all felt like echoes from another world. She slipped into a chair at the back, her heart beating too quickly, her throat tightening as her eyes landed on the man at the center of it all. Her ex-fiancé, smiling broadly, his hand wrapped around the bride he had chosen over her. Memories stabbed at her. Just a year ago, that smile had been for her. Just a year ago, she had stood in front of mirrors, trying on white gowns and picturing herself walking down the aisle toward him. But all of it had shattered in one brutal discovery, the betrayal that had left her, humiliated and broken. He hadn't just left her. He had cheated, lied, and paraded another woman as though Claire had never mattered. And now she was forced to sit there and pretend she was fine. Because the whole town was watching, everyone knew their history, and everyone would notice if she hadn't come. She tried to keep her eyes down, folding her hands in her lap, praying no one would come over and pity her. She didn't want sympathy. But the weight of being alone pressed heavier than she could bear. And then, just as her ex and his new bride stepped into the hall and the music swelled, she felt a whisper against her ear. "Pretend you're with me." She turned sharply, startled. A man had slipped into the empty seat beside her. He was tall, sharp in a dark suit, his tie loosened just enough to look effortless. His eyes met hers, steady, calm, but with something unreadable in them. Before she could speak, he slid his hand lightly over hers, the gesture natural, protective. At first, Claire thought he was mocking her, some cruel joke. But then he leaned in again, his voice low and soothing. "You looked like you needed rescuing." The warmth of his hand steadied her trembling fingers. The surprise of his presence pulled her out of her spiral of shame. For the first time that evening, she wasn't just the ex, the abandoned woman everyone whispered about. She was sitting with someone who looked at her as if she mattered. They played along almost effortlessly. When people glanced their way, she laughed at his quiet remarks. When her ex's gaze swept across the room, Daniel, that was his name, he told her softly, rested his arm casually behind her chair. It was enough to make the groom pause, confusion flashing across his face. Then Daniel appeared. "Let her go," he said, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the noise. Her ex sneered. "She's nothing. She's always been nothing." Daniel stepped forward, his stance protective, his eyes locked on the man who had once promised Claire forever. And in that moment, she saw the truth. Daniel wasn't playing a role anymore. He wasn't pretending. He was defending her. The confrontation spiraled quickly. More voices rose. Chaos broke loose in the hall. And soon, fists and shouts clashed as the fragile facade of the wedding collapsed. Daniel grabbed Claire's hand, pulling her away from the danger, weaving through corridors until they burst into the cool night air. Her chest heaved as they ran, her heels stumbling against the pavement, but he steadied her. For the first time that night, she felt safe. Not because she had escaped the stares and whispers, but because Daniel hadn't let go. When sirens wailed in the distance, flashing lights drawing closer, Claire finally stopped. She turned to Daniel, breathless, confused, overwhelmed. "Who are you?" she whispered. He looked at her, tired but steady. "Someone who couldn't watch you sit alone." The words sank deep, softening something inside her that had been frozen for too long. She didn't know if she could trust him fully. Not yet. But she knew this: he hadn't abandoned her. Not when it mattered most. By morning, the entire town buzzed with the scandal. The groom in handcuffs, the bride in tears, the wealthy family exposed for lies they had tried to bury. The wedding had become a crime scene, a spectacle of downfall. But Claire, for the first time in years, felt free. Free from the chains of her ex's betrayal. Free from the shame of being the one left behind. She sat on a park bench, exhausted, the sunrise painting the sky in soft gold. Daniel sat beside her, his jacket draped around her shoulders. For a while, neither spoke. The silence wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. Finally, she turned to him. "Why me?" His lips curved into a quiet smile. "Because you deserve someone to sit with you." not leave you behind." Her throat tightened, her eyes stinging with tears she hadn't expected. All her life, she had thought love was grand gestures, promises written in rings and roses. But maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe love was in the quiet moments, the whisper of a stranger who chose to stay when everyone else had walked away. As the morning light warmed her face, Claire realized her story wasn't ending in betrayal. It was beginning in something new, something unexpected, something real. She had been sitting alone at a wedding, drowning in silence until a stranger whispered, "Pretend you're with me." But he wasn't just pretending. He had rescued her, not only from that night, but from the chains of her past. And in that rescue, she found not just protection, but the possibility of love again.